Okay, so we're starting our integer unit, and throughout this unit, we're really going to be focused heavily on vocabulary and identifying vocabulary that leads us to a negative integer or a positive integer. So let's look at this focus question just to kind of give our brains an idea of where we're headed. So it says at 8 a.m., the temperature was negative 17 degrees. At 3 p.m., the temperature was negative 22 degrees. Was it warmer or colder at 8 a.m.? And by the end of this lesson, I want you to be prepared to kind of explain your answer, maybe with a drawing or words. So we're really thinking about negative 17 compared to negative 22 and which one would be colder and what that looks like. So first, let's define an integer. An integer is any whole number that is positive, negative, or zero. So you can see there's a list there, negative 1, 2, 3, etc., and so on and so on and so on. It keeps going. And you have non-negative, which would be your positive. Now notice your negative integers have a little minus sign, a negative sign, but your positive integers, they don't have a plus sign in front of them. It's the unwritten rule that every number without a sign in front of it is a positive number. And when we're talking about whole numbers, we're talking about integers. So we have positive, non-negative, zero all by itself is an integer. Okay, integers are not fractions or decimals. So throughout this lesson, we're focusing on positive or negative integers that represent scenarios. So we're really going to be talking about a lot of vocabulary as we move forward and thinking about, well, what could mean negative? What does a negative number mean? Or what does a positive number mean? So let's look at a couple scenarios. Here's kind of our thoughts. Thinking about how you could represent different scenarios with positive or negative integers. So Kate's granny lost 7 pounds. Well, when I see lost, it means your scale's going down. You weigh less. So it's kind of like subtracting. So a loss of 7 pounds is represented by negative 7 or minus 7. A negative sign is just like a minus sign. How about B? The submarine is 235 feet below sea level. So when I think about this, I picture sea level kind of here on the surface of the ocean. And I know submarines go underneath the surface. And I know it says it's below sea level. Well, if I'm below sea level, then I'm at negative 235. So that's what we're looking here. That's the integer that represents that scenario. So let's take a closer look at vocabulary. And I really, really recommend that you write this vocabulary in your journal or that you make a note somewhere, because this is going to be important. These are some words that are used to represent positive integers, positive scenarios, or words that we might see for negative integers, things where we're losing or subtracting. So if we gain, if we ascend is kind of like going up, like your plane when it takes off is ascending, so it's gaining. Increase, above zero, above sea level, and deposit. Those are your positive integers. If I'm depositing money in my bank account, I'm adding money to my bank account. Negative integers would be words like loss or lose. Descend, when your plane comes down, right? When you're landing, it's descending. Decrease, below zero. So think about that temperature below zero. Oh, it's going to be 5 below zero today. Below sea level. Withdrawal. So if you're taking money out of the account, you're withdrawing. In debit, we all know what a debit card is, right? You use it at the grocery store. A debit. If I'm debiting my bank account, they're taking the money out. Now, these are some words that mean zero or a starting point. Sea level. When I think about sea level, that's right at zero. You have below sea level, which would be negative integers, and you have above sea level positive. Zero is obviously zero. Scrimmage line. Think about in football. If you're a football fan, the scrimmage line is where every play starts. It's the start of every play. And the players can either gain yards, right? If they're doing good, if the offense is doing good, they gain yards, or If they're not gaining yards because the defense is doing good, then they're losing yards. So they're always starting at one point. That starting line is your scrimmage line. That would be your 0. So again, that kind of goes with the next word, starting point. Your starting point is your 0. And then ground level. Think about an elevator. When you enter the elevator, you're typically on the ground floor, and then you can go up in the elevator, or depending on where you're at, you might even be able to go down to levels. Okay, so make sure somewhere that you note this vocabulary. We're going to be using this vocabulary today and tomorrow as we practice, but you really want to know what these words mean. All right, now we're going to look at a couple of scenarios and see how we would place those on a number line. How do integers go on a number line? So first, let's look at this number line. What I notice right away is that 0's in the middle. We're used to number lines where 0 starts it, but number lines can really start anywhere. On this number line, we have 0 in the middle, and we're going from 0, moving left, counting to -10. So -1, -2, -3. Think about that. -1 is still one space away from 0. -10 is still 10 spaces away from 0. Moving in the positive direction, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? +1 is still only one space away from 0. So as you're looking at number lines for positive and negative integers, you want to keep that in mind. We still count from 0. So we start at 0 and we go positives, or we start at 0 and we go negatives. So keeping that in mind. Let's look at a couple of scenarios. Jumping ahead here. Okay, so where would you put 2 degrees above 0 on the number line? So let's go back to that vocabulary. Above 0, right, means it's going to be a positive integer. Okay, it's still cold. 2 degrees above 0 is still very cold, but it's a positive integer. So because it's above, it's going to be positive. It's going to be to the right of 0. So let's see where we would put that. Here comes our little dot. How about where would you put -5 degrees or 5 degrees below 0? So again, we started 0 and we're going 5 below. We're going 5 to the left this time of 0. So let's see where we would put that. And yeah, you guessed it, right at the -5. Very good. Okay, we're going to do some practice with some more scenarios and where they would go. So let's think about this. I want you to draw this number line in your journal. You can pause the video while you draw it. Please make sure that you start, as you're drawing your number line, as you're going from 0 into the negatives, it's not 0, -10, -9, we're not counting backwards. Every jump is away from 0. So if I'm going 1 jump away from 0, it's still -1. Another jump, now I'm 2 jumps from 0 in the negative direction, so I'm -2. If I'm 6 jumps to the right from 0, I'm in 6 positive. So just kind of be careful as you draw your number line. So I want you to draw this number line in your journal. And as we go through it, you can even use these different colors, if you have colors near you, to kind of represent these scenarios on your number line. So what you're going to do is you're going to pause this video, draw your number line, and place these scenarios where you feel they belong. And then after you do that, I want you to play the video again and check your placement. So I want you to pause the video, write the number line, make little dots for each scenario so you can color code it, you can put little symbols, whatever works for you, and then play the video again and check your work. Okay, so now we're going to check our work on our number line to see if we place the scenarios in the right location. So let's start with this light green, 7 degrees below 0. 7 degrees below 0 would be at -7 because below 0. The climber was at an elevation of 10. Elevation is above, so that would be +10. How about the next one? 8 feet below sea level. Well, if I remember my vocabulary, below sea level is a negative integer. So that puts me at -8. How about deposit of $4 starting from 0? So if I have nothing and I deposit $4, well, my vocabulary tells me deposit's positive, so that's going to go to +4. All right, 2 degrees above 0. Well, I know above 0 has to be positive, so I should be at +2. $6 profit starting from $0. A profit is not a vocabulary word we've talked about before, but a profit is money that you earn. So businesses make a profit, hopefully. So if it's money I earn, it's a positive. It's going to go in the +6. Withdrawal of $5 starting from 0. So I have nothing, but I take 5 away. Okay, which technically your bank probably wouldn't let you do. But if we have nothing and we take 5 away, now we owe 5. A withdrawal is negative. And then loss of $3 starting from 0. So again, if I lose something, it's a negative. So I'm going to have that will be at a -3. Excellent. Okay, now that you have a good understanding of integers and matching integers with scenarios, you're going to complete a practice on your own.